Hey guys, it's Kristin and Danny.
What's up? You're watching the Libby-O Show.
Oh.
How did she do it? Do it. Do it. Do it.
Libby. Libby. Libby.
3, 2,
Libby.
1.
It's the Libby-O Show.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of The Libby-O Show. Today's guests became viral on YouTube for their famous lip sync videos, love songs from the decades, and now they are traveling around the country speaking about their marriage and about family. And they are here to talk about their brand new book, The Road to Love and Laughter. Read this on vacation. It was awesome. Welcome, Kristin and Danny Adams, to the show. How are you?
We're so great. I just want to point out, I'm drinking my morning coffee out of your Libby-O Show mug.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you received it.
Thank you for that gift. And Danny would be drinking out of his, but the other one came cracked. So that's why, but he has his hubby mug. And so here we go.
Love that. Well, I'll send y'all a new one.
You're so sweet.
These guys are great. I got them.
Those are nice.
Thank you. I went online blindly and was like, I need a cheap version to see how this works out. This website called anypromo.com, which
I love it.
Is
It's very clear.
like, what are we going to get? And it turned out way bigger, nice ceramic. And
It's a heavy, hardy mug. If you like heavy, hardy mugs, this mug's for you.
That's right.
If I like that the blue one stayed intact, because this would be mine anyway. So
Right.
I'm sorry, yours broke.
It's okay. I like the black. How it's just so color coordinated with your set there and what's going on today. You are black and gold
all the way,
all day long.
Love it so much. I'll send you a new black one because I have plenty under my shelf here. So
thank you.
Well, let's talk about this book here. It's out now. And I love the way that it was written. You've got, some format of like almost like a script. Mm-hmm. And then you're both kind of going back and forth talking about your individual experiences in Hollywood and meeting each other and how your friendship grew, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So share why you chose to write the book this way and how fun was it to write it with someone else?
I know, right? Well, it was it was challenging. It was fun, but also challenging to co-author a book because it's not like one of you can just go away and be like, okay, I've come back and here it is. I mean, you have to share. We're sharing the writing experience, and we're giving people shared experiences of each other. So it's like we need his perspective and mine, and we hit a lot of times. Danny has a much better memory than I do, so when I'm recounting something, he's like, "Okay, that's not what happened," and I'm like, "No, that is what happened." I remember it clearly. I was right in that argument. You were not.
Hilarious. No, I remember.
So we had to relive a couple of, not so pretty moments in our relationship because we wanted to share with people, hey, you see these lip sync videos and it looks like we're having a great time, but we hope that that's not what you think, because we got a lot of comments when our video went viral that I would love to have that relationship. I wish my husband would put on wigs and dress up and dance with me in the car and sing. And we were like, well, it is true that we love to have fun together. And that's a huge part of our relationship. But we didn't want people thinking that it was all rainbows and kitty cats all the time for us, you know? And there's real situations that we have to navigate just like anybody else. And so that was the main reason we put it out into the world. And it was difficult, but we got the inspiration because when our publisher heard us on a podcast and said, hey, we want you to write a book, we felt very overwhelmed because we're video people. And we're like, is what we say and how we communicate going to translate in a book format? And so we were walking through the airport. We'll just share. The real story is that we were walking through the airport, and Megan Mullaley's book with her husband, Keith, what's his name? From Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I always want to say the wrong name, but I'm blanking out. Anyways, Megan and her husband co-authored a book together. They had a hilarious cover. It's called The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. And I started flipping through it, and they had a similar format that we modeled, which is they're having a conversation. Yeah. And so it's like you're reading a podcast transcript or any kind of script. Right. And we were like, we could do that. Yeah. We could do that.
So that's kind of our jumping off point. Like, hey, we can have a conversation. We know how to do that. And we know how to banter. back and forth. So that's kind of what we did. And then it evolved, right? The publishing company approached us. We didn't set out to do a book.
Send them a manuscript.
Yeah, we didn't send them a manuscript. We said, oh wow, a book now in this season of our life? We didn't even see that coming. But then we kind of had to figure it out. First time authors, what's our best writing formula? And then also when you're co-authoring, there could be a day where Kristin's feeling it, I'm not, or vice versa. And then you just kind of take that story and, kind of say, hey, I'm going to do this. I do have a better memory in terms of just facts and not about anything relational, honestly. It has nothing to do with fights necessarily.
You said in terms of facts.
Which is
I have a better memory in terms of facts.
In terms of facts.
She has a better memory in terms of fantasy. What does that mean?
Which is so funny because in
That's
the whole
hilarious.
book, you talk about how Danny is a relational person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because it is true that like he'll recount, he's very focused on people, and I can be more like in my head, just in social settings or just in any setting. And he's taken it all in and like remembering, and he does the name association. He typically doesn't forget somebody's name, even just meeting them once. And so I'm over here in my head a lot. And so when we recap things, it's just two very different versions sometimes.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, but it is fun to be able to. I mean, Kristin is she's gifted at writing. She can, even though she's not an author, she really is. And so in terms of getting,
we're not authors, but buy our new book.
We're
great.
really great at this.
It's gonna wow you.
This is like reverse promotion for our book.
We're not authors at all, but by the way.
No, but honestly, like it was like a heavenly, like divine setup for us to write this, because like Danny said, sorry, we're moving our screen on you, Libby.
It's all good.
But because like Danny said, we didn't set out, we knew a book maybe would be in our future. It was definitely in our heart. We wanted to share our story, but maybe not the right time. And so everything just started aligning like bit by bit. We saw Megan's book. We were like, that's an idea. We could do that. Let's a jumping off point. And then we didn't write it in order. We just, whenever a story would come to us, we're like, we definitely need to share the time that you met my dad. That's funny. That's relatable. So we kind of just wrote it out of these, we recapped moments in our life, moving across the country. We left LA, 15-year careers in the entalent industry, and we relocated to Indiana. We were like, that's a risk faith move. We should share that with people. Talking about taking separate flights home after we got in a huge fight in New York City. We didn't even want to sit next to each other on the plane. So, that's pretty bad. We were like, let's recount that fight and put our junk out there. But then talk about how he proposed to me in New York City, and we had to go reclaim that city because that's one of our favorite cities in the world. And it had a stain on it for a long time because we got in a fight there. And so he's like, I'm going to propose to you there because we need to redeem that. And
that's right.
So anyways, so we share a lot of, that's really what it is. The road to love and laughter of like, hey, there's going to be a lot of wrong turns that you make in life and in relationships, but in our experience, God can make good out of any wrong turn that you may make. And no one or nothing is too far gone for him to make beautiful again. And so we just try to stay in that mindset in our work, in our relationship with our family and everything.
That's good.
Yeah. And I remember I was watching an interview that you did with Hillsong about your journey. And I remember there's a specifically moment where you talk about the messy side of life and that why people want that and crave that kind of story, because it makes those redemptive moments way more special. So dive a little bit more into that and why you feel like including the good and the bad in this book is going to be so redemptive for other people out there who are maybe either struggling or they're in a relationship they're trying to figure out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lie to think, which the enemy likes to give us lies, that our situation stands alone, that no one else can understand really what's going on with you. Everyone else from the outside, especially with social media now, the life around you can look perfect sometimes. And even with our own relationship, two people dressing up in full costume, sitting in the front seat of their car and doing character work, that looks, that's bizarre, but it looks like another level of like, wow, I barely chuckle with my spouse. Look at them. They're getting in the car and dressing up. So, but we're quick to say, yes, we're performers. We're graced for that kind of thing. There's a chemistry that Kristin and I have that God has graced us for. However, we're very different people. And we approach, outside of that video, which was 3 minutes long, we approach life very different, 23 hours and 57 minutes of, the rest of the day, that's very differently. So we want to encourage that. And when we have our live events, anytime we get a chance to share with people, we open that door to say, look, this is just how different we are. And these differences have led to a lot of conflict. And we use a comedic spin to it. It's always, you can kind of laugh at things, hindsight, when you look back on things, but it really does bring hope to people to say, man, we have to fight to get in a place, like fight for each other, stop fighting with each other, but for each other, to get into a place to be able to bring laughter. And it's no bed of roses here.
Well, we get asked that often a lot, Libby, like, life is messy. You ask, why share this? We get asked, how do you keep the laughter in the midst of life and relationships being messy?
Right.
And a large part of it is that it's just a choice. It's a choice to say, I know that the medicine that laughter is, to our bodies, and how much better we feel and how good it is for your body to laugh. And so in spite of us disagreeing or anything like that, we really do try to find the funny. Not all the time. There's times to have very serious conversations, and there's times where we don't handle everything right. Even in writing this book, it was like we had moments that we didn't even know if the book was going to happen, because so much came up. It was very healing and revealing for us to write this book and recount hard parts and moments in our relationship. And when we were still going through hard things in our marriage, and we're still going to go through hard things in our marriage. So it's like, we just wanted to write it to say, hey, if you're feeling like you're in a mess, join the club, and don't buy into the lie that everyone's got it perfect or someone else has it better. God sees you right where you are, and he's happy and pleased with you and wants to walk through whatever it is you're going through with you.
That's good.
And that's what we've committed to doing. We're not perfect. This isn't the end all be all of marriage books. It's far from it. It's just two people saying, hey, we promise you that it's going to get better if you quote unquote stay in the car together. All of our videos are filmed in the car. And there's been times where we've wanted to exit the scene early and get off the highway and say, I'm going this way, dude, you go that way, and we'll just call this quits, And we've just realized that, like, the beauty is in staying in the fight and staying in the commitment. And it just gets more beautiful as time goes on.
It's good.
For sure. And I got to add that I feel like including those moments of messy times or whatever, or the uncertainty, is going to take the pressure off a lot of people. So someone as single as myself, like, oh, I don't have to look forward to having to be perfect for that person. And they don't have to either, acknowledging that.
And in fact, don't like learn from me, because if you're putting out this image that you think, first of all, you're going to attract something that's thinking that that's what you are. And it's like, no, the more you can show, like, hey, this is me. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I, either embrace that or don't, because, I want to get better. The whole goal for me is like, I'm trying to get better every day. I'm not trying to be the person I was 20 years ago. I'm trying to look ahead and go, God, create me and shape me and mold me and make me to look more like you. But at the same time, I have to look at Danny and go, hey, if it takes me like 10 years to change that, to get better at that thing that we all know stinks about me, like my desire to be right all the time, or whatever it is that I'm struggling with, I'm like, I need to know that you still love me and you're going to give me grace while I'm walking that out, And that's what I think, just any relationship, a healthy friendship, a healthy mother-daughter relationship, any relationship, a healthy marriage relationship says, I love you for who you are. I'm going to be patient while God's molding you into the person you're going to become. And I want to do my best to support you in that process.
I loved reading that you both support each other in your respective career. You're both obviously in entertainment, started out in entertainment. So what has that been like to have someone that gets it? Yeah.
I think there were different seasons for us that represented us being busier than the other. Now we work together, but for many years in Los Angeles, we were sort of divide and conquer, if you will. So we were just supporting each other. Kristin, there were seasons where Kristin's work was very demanding, and I had downtime, which I could, doing the little things, right? Making her breakfast or sending her off, making sure that she's got plenty of water for the day and snacks and all that.
Oh,
those are
Danny has a background as a personal trainer, so he's always he's like, here's your vitamins, here's your water. I packed you snacks because you're going to be on set all day.
Yeah.
And there was also just, it's really just like that trust there, and like that freedom that comes with like, hey, I know you're doing what God's called you to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not jealous of it. I'm not, intimidated by it.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you, and I'm a part of it. Like I wouldn't have been as successful in my time as a television host, especially in those later years when we were married, if Danny hadn't been right there saying, you got this, you can do this, and helping me fight the lies at the time that, I'm not as talented as this person, or I'm not as pretty as this, whatever those thoughts are that try to come in, and him to be like, babe, go slay this. Like, you got this today,
Yeah.
And
sorry, go ahead.
On the flip side, Danny had a season where he was doing a one-man comedy show in Los Angeles and had to put together, he wrote the script top to bottom. It was an 1.5-hour long show with all original characters. And, so there was that ebb and flow of like, he's got to go right. I've got the kids. Let's make this happen. Yeah. We had a lot of late nights. Yeah. I'm out helping shop for props and wardrobe for his characters.
She was the wardrobe coordinator backstage during the whole thing.
There was a lot more glamorous roles that, I want to be like, I want to be in the show. Oh yeah, it's a one-man show. Sorry. I guess
1.5 man.
I guess I'll take tickets in the lobby, whatever. But it really is just that beautiful. Like when you want the best for somebody, then that's what you do.
Yeah. And you're one. A marriage is, you're one. And really God sees you that way. So when you know that, look, my success is our success, right? And vice versa. That's a beautiful thing. And seasons, man, life is just full of seasons. You never know. But when you have purpose, when you have vision as a family and ultimately what you want to do, you're willing to lay down a season of your life to say, you know what?
It's not about me.
It's not about me. And it's about ultimately this marriage glorifying God and reflecting Him. And so there was a season early on when I was playing daddy almost full time, when Kristin's the first year of our daughter's life, Kristin had the busiest year of her career. And so she was traveling, and there's things that could maybe come on a mommy of like, man, I feel a little guilty of being away so much, but it was a season for me to roll up my sleeves and warm up a lot of bottles in the middle of the night and do the thing. I
had a lot of tears during that time because I was on planes, in plane bathrooms, like pumping, and airplane bathrooms pumping, and coming back from trips with like oodles and bags full of milk, and all those but they were such beautiful times. I look back and I'm like, I'm so grateful to have a supportive partner.
Our kids aren't normal by any means.
No, we totally ruined them, but we're good.
But we're solid.
We're right. We just do what we can. Living in the chaos, organized chaos.
Exactly. Yes. A beautiful mess, organized chaos.
Yes. Yep. And we have a lot of heated fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that so much. Kristin, I gotta make a comment about your story when you got the migraine. I also get them. And so I got to know your tips. What do you do to like soothe the migraine, or like what? Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah.
I got to know.
I think, for me, it's been usually when I have a lack of water, that's a huge trigger for me. Like if I don't get it, and that's why Danny's always like, are you drinking water? Did you drink water today? You got water? Yeah.
Got 2 coffee.
I love coffee. And so I need to start, if I have a cup of coffee, I need to drink a glass of water after. And I don't always do that. And I bring them on myself a lot of times. Food is another thing. I have to eat every couple, 2-3 hours, like a snack, something. That's just me. And then obviously stress, and I think too, some of it's just, not to get, too off track here, but I do think that, there's just spiritual attacks sometimes. It's like, I have to just go, why are these like regularly coming on me? Is there an open door here? Am I meditating on like thoughts that just shouldn't be there? Like my brain gets literally filled with all kinds of worry and fear. Like 90% of those things are never going to happen. And why am I letting them take up space in my head? And I do think that just triggers pain and like, my head's going, this is not meant to be in here. You need to get this out. And so I regularly just try to have like inventory of my thoughts and go, I don't want I don't want to have junk in my head, anything that's going to trigger a migraine. So water, regular food, relieve stress. You know, those are all easy things to do. Just don't be stressed, Libby. Ever.
Take note, you know.
Just go lay on the beach somewhere and don't have a care in the world.
Once a week, it's easy. It's fine. You
never
know?
Talk to people because people bring stress. Just be by your, no, I'm just kidding. But that's the thing. It's hard. I mean, like there's stress in life.
There's stress in life.
It's really just managing it better and giving those cares over to God. And it's good. And so, but I do, man, I really am working through, they've gotten better. I used to get migraines like, I would say 3 times a month sometimes. I mean, back when they were really coming on me. But the more I've learned to take care of my body and manage stress, and I know when it's kind of coming, I'm like, okay, everybody, I just need a minute, need a deep breathe.
Yeah. There's a lot of practical tips, you know, just things that you can do to counter that, you know, like, oh, hit it early, take these. And those are great to know. But yesterday morning, Chris and I had a nice talk on our patio about peace. Just the peace of God and how you can't manufacture peace. You can't go after and do things in your own strength to do that. Peace comes from just being and abiding in God and in his presence. I mean, he offers us that. It's all through his word of you know, his sheltering wings and what that looks like.
You can find like moments of it. You know, it's like you can take a exercise class and walk, and there's things you can do to get, I got a moment. But then like once you're out of it, you're back to the cares of the world again, the things that always bother you. And so that what you're talking about, babe, is just that overall piece that's just like always there no matter what comes your way.
Because life continues to happen. It's not going to slow down, and the things around you aren't going to slow down. And when that sponge gets squeezed, right, things are revealed. And oftentimes it's a lack of peace. It's just, it's stress, it's anxiety. And here comes all of those sort of effects to that, to a lack thereof. And whether it's headaches, whether it's back pain, I mean, there's a lot of things that can come. We're body, right? Mind, body, and soul.
Right.
So
I think it's stress and food. Those are the two things that
food,
you take inventory of, right?
Podcast.
Those are the two things that are affecting your body. It's like if we're going to get taken out, it's usually those two things. Man. And so if I can just look back when my migraine comes and go, okay, the last week, what have I eaten or not eaten? And what have I allowed to cloud my brain, my mind, my life that's not life-giving, that's not true? What lies am I believing and following? So that was a long answer.
That's a loaded answer for a short question.
It's great. I bought, this is, I mean, more of like I do take medication and obviously, you know, try to like chill myself out because I get clouded up here and I'm just like, you know, thinking about 15 different things at one time. But I bought an ice roller from Amazon.
Yes. The ones like this, like a jade roller that you put in the,
and it's just like, it makes things way easier for myself. So
I do that on Kristin. I'm like, this is good. This is good. Settle it.
You're laughing, but honestly, when I'm like full-blown migraine mode and I'm in the bedroom like with a pillow over my head, like no light, I'm like, babe, will you please go get, I have another
ice pack.
Let me just go. Can I just go grab it really quick?
It's funny.
Is it going to mess you up on your, hold on.
No, I'll go grab mine.
Yeah, let's grab it. Okay, we're going to share migraine.
And I'll be here talking to your audience by myself.
This is just like a health segment.
It's a health segment. We flipped it. Oh, yours is much bigger. Kristin's looks like she got it from, you know, hers in like some, I don't know. It's like a.
You have a big one? What did I hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa.
That looks like a lint remover. It's like, it's 2 in 1.
Dang. That looks like you're doing like some microdermabrasion too or something.
Literally looks,
mine's
like
itty.
On the back of my,
oh wait.
In the freezer.
Yes, say that again. I had my headphones out. Yes.
Like, and my mom told, because my mom gets, I think it's hereditary as well.
Yes.
My mom gets them. So she's like, you need to get the ice up under your head or whatever, or brain. I don't know. Anatomy.
Mine comes right on my eyebrow. I get like pain on my brow bone.
Okay.
So I'll like push there and then, so it's right here. And then I get it on the same side of my neck, whatever that is down there. So, and then I also have this thing, which you can heat or put in the freezer or put it in the microwave, whichever you're feeling like you need. And this is me.
Oh my God.
That's like beanbaggy. It's like beanbaggy.
And I just lay with this on my face, don't I, babe?
Yes. Go get that. Go get me the pack and the.
So there you go. Practical tips for your migraine, right? I'm glad you like you got your ice roller.
I know. I used it this morning, actually. depuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. The worst is when they try to come on you when you have work. Like we'll be out to go out for an event. That's actually where I got that little pink one. We were at an event and like, there's been times where I'm like, babe, I can't go out there. I can't go on stage right now. I am hurting.
There's two sides to that. That's for the hard to reach places, the little room.
I love that so much.
But someone at the event came. I was laying down in like this room, and she was like, had this and sent me home with it. So
grateful. It can take us out the whole day sometimes. Like Satan, not today.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan.
I want to know ways that you've created peace in your family life. So, I mean, you're obviously busy creating your lip sync videos, which are super fun. And then you're traveling on the road for speaking events. And then I guess eventually you'll be doing a book tour, correct?
Yeah, I know. We've been trying to kind of figure out, you know, what's the best plan. Life, you know, life after COVID has been odd.
Right.
And so life during COVID was not good, and life after COVID still weird sometimes. So we're still navigating like events and what people are comfortable doing and all of that. But
we talked about priorities. That's another topic we talked about yesterday, was just managing priorities. And that is, I heard what a mentor of mine one time said, you know, we try to time manage. And that's just impossible, because things happen in your day that's going to interrupt time, especially if you have children like we do, younger children. You just can't do that. And if you're a time results driven person, it can drive you nuts because your time is interrupted. But he said, but if you manage priorities, you know, things just are healthier that way. And for us, that's making God first in our lives, making him the priority, and then seeking that wisdom from him to manage everything else. And it's like,
there's that scripture, Matthew 6:33, that's like, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added to you. But I think a lot of times we seek everything else before.
Yes.
And then we try to fit God kind of in there. And then we're like, why don't we have peace?
What happened? Work it out, God.
And so
not a priority, you know?
So I definitely, but listen, Libby, I mean, like, we don't have peace all the time. No. We had a huge explosive fight a couple weeks before this book came out. And it literally, and we looking back, I mean, obviously it was an attack. We're about to put a book in the world, you know, to share our stuff. And here comes all this opposition, but we didn't handle it right. We kind of resorted back to, you look at it and you're like, why did we know better? So there's going to be those moments where you just don't hit the mark. But for us, it's like, hey, again, like Danny said earlier, what's the vision? God's got to, you know, don't let this little moment right here, even though it's huge and there are things that need to be addressed that came up in that we need to work through, but like, don't abort the mission, you know? And that's the key, is to stay in the fight. And
you learn that it's not about you. You know, you have to come into this. I mean, when life is not about you, especially when you get into marriage, it's a selfless place. You have to be in that place. I mean, we're selfish beings at the core of us, so that's a hard thing to fight against. But when you say, man, I gotta be, for this to work out, I can't bring selfishness to the table. You get two selfish people, man, this is gonna be over before it starts. But selflessness allows you to say, look, if I can dump 100% of myself into this person, expecting nothing in return, and you get two people doing that, that's a beautiful thing. And this isn't a 50-50, okay, I'll compromise, you know.
No one's happy when they feel like they have to give up 50% all the time.
That sounds good in the movies, but it's just not true. It's competitive. It's just not something that makes for a good team. And so but
if you just say, like you said, I'm giving 100%, I don't care what the other people are doing. Yeah.
And no one's going to complete you. You're single, Libby. You probably have some single listeners out there and viewers, and no one's going to complete you. It sounds beautiful in the movie. You complete me. You're 50. I'm 50. No, God makes you whole. You are a whole person, and he gives you your full identity in him. And when you have someone else knowing exactly who they are, standing alone without you, now you have two healthy people coming together, which can be a beautiful thing.
What would you say is the most rewarding part about creating wholesome content that focuses on being selfless? Because I mean, to be transparent, there's a lot of content out there right now, especially on social media, that's focused on self-love, self-care, which I think to a degree it's obviously important to take care of yourself. and love yourself. But what is it about this book that you feel like it's going to be so rewarding for other people to think about a different side of what it means to give yourself up, to give in this world, whatever you do?
Yeah, I can start that maybe. In terms of creating content, I think one of the goals that we set out to do was create content that was family friendly and where whole families can actually watch the content. There's content out there that obviously isn't
grandma and grandkids aren't going to sit together and watch it together.
Yeah, and that's the kind of television programming that used to exist more than it does now. And that was when you sat down with your family and watched a show and laughed together and did all the things. So that was a very bonding time for our households growing up and laughing together, all the things. And so that was a strong conviction. And it was actually from the time I was a young kid, like, man, and people would speak that, like, man, you want to, develop family content that's wholesome and people can watch it and feel good about it and not leave icky afterwards. And so when we started doing that and getting comments in our comment section from literal grandparents that are saying, man, I'm watching this with my grandkids, and you kind of have everybody in between, man, that was a blessing to be able to live in that, say, man, we're doing that. We're creating this content. Obviously our kids are involved in some of our videos, and that's a feel good to say, man, they're watching mommy and daddy work together. There's nothing to,
and that's honestly early on was kind of our thing. We didn't know if we were going to resonate with anyone. Yeah. And so when we started doing this, we said, well, let's try this for a year. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't take off like business wise, at least we'll have a year worth of content that our kids can look back on and be like, mommy and daddy had fun together. They gave us something we can watch. They gave us something we can be proud of as a family. And so that was really the heart of it. But like Danny said, content, if we're doing it God's way, should really bring people together. It should be a shared experience. Yep. And I think we've moved away from that, where now everyone in the household just goes in with their own device and watches the one thing they want to watch. Man. Not like, hey, let's all come down to the living room and watch, the Carol Burnett show, or, America's Funniest Videos, or whatever it is. And so we're trying to show our kids that, like, this isn't, mommy's not going to go, every day for hours on end and watch my show away from everybody, and you go do the same thing. It's like, no, we have Friday night movie night. It's going to be something we all enjoy. Whenever we're getting on media for any reason, there's a purpose behind it. Are we looking to laugh as a family? Are we looking to learn something? What's the purpose of being on the media? Is it just to waste time right now? Because that's not probably very good, like, what's the purpose? Yeah. And so I think that's our heart, is to create content that can just bring people together and give people a shared experience where they feel good after.
Yeah.
And it creates that discernment early on too, of like, hey, if they see something when you're not around, it's like, oh, okay, that's not exactly what I was taught to watch or
yes.
do. And so it creates that boundary ahead of time, instead of being like, oh yeah, just go like do whatever. So
our son is already, and our daughter too, but our son has always had very good discernment, just a natural thing for him. But he already, like, because we just don't allow certain programming in our home or on our devices. And even for us, it's like we get more and more sensitive as a couple when we're trying to find a movie we can watch together or something. It might be 10 minutes in and one of us is like, can we change this? This is just, I don't have the bandwidth or the space for that anymore. And I don't want that in my house. And so our son will already, he's like, this just feels dark. There's like a dark thing to this, and I just don't want it.
Yeah. Boundaries are good for parents to have on their children. I mean, that's what we've called to steward their hearts first and foremost. And, there's love and correction. There's love and boundaries. But, that's just a message out there. I mean, it's not anything that we are experts at. But
spearheading, but we're trying to implement it in our own.
Because we see it. We see it a lot where parents just like are giving those loose boundaries to their children. And it kind of, it's not the healthiest thing always. So.
Gotcha. Well, those are great tips, obviously, for any parents out there that are watching this. I got to know, do your kids ever recommend songs for you both to lip sync?
I would love to say that they do. Maybe they will as they continue to get older. But on the reverse side, they have been introduced to all kinds of genres of music through our lip sync videos.
Yeah.
So a lot of the
Love
times
that.
we'll put a lip sync medley together, and it might be because our kids were 5 and 2 when we first started doing the lip sync videos.
Yeah.
And so around that age. And so Holt was more like 1. It was like 1 and 4.
Mhm.
But anyways, so they hadn't been exposed to a lot of pop culture songs at that time. And so we would put a lip sync together, and they would be like grooving, you know, to like a Michael Jackson song or like whatever. And then they would start singing them, but they would only sing 10 seconds of the song because that's what's in our lip sync videos. So they don't even know the full song. You know? And then they would sing it in order of our lip sync medley. And they'll still do that around the house. They'll start singing one of our lip syncs videos, and they move from song to song just in 10-second clips. And
the only video that they really they really clicked to right away was Greatest Showman, because we had seen that movie. We get out and we literally got on that video within 3 or 4 days after we saw the movie.
You're right, babe. That's the only lip sync video that they knew all the music to before, really.
Yeah.
It's
So
like they know the ringtone version.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
That is
That's
literally
good.
what they know.
Put it.
And some of those songs, I'm like, that's all you get to know.
That's all you
those
need to
10
know.
seconds.
That's all
You
you
can't
need to
listen to anything else.
Great. Awesome. You're good to go.
You know the hook.
They're gonna be really well versed though.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
They're gonna when they're 25 years old and actually hear the full version, they're gonna be like, that's what that song says. That's what that's about. Because I only knew 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, are y'all releasing an audiobook?
Yes, we have an audiobook of
Awesome.
the Road to Love and Laughter. It's out.
Oh, awesome.
The audiobook was fun.
And then, I bet. And also, honestly, like kind of acting out like you do with your lip sync videos with this as well.
Because it's true. And that was like the whole time we were writing, we kept changing things because we're like, okay, this is how we're saying it, but is that how someone's going to read it? You know, the tone. Like if people don't know us and know our personalities, I'm like, they could think I'm being weird right now or like rude or something. And so the audiobook was nice for people to hear like, okay, Danny's joking, Kristin's joking, you know.
You tell some of these stories live, Libby. So when we're at a live event telling the story, there's the physical comedy that kind of comes with it. There's the eye look. It's the inflection of the words. It's all these things that add to funny. But you put it down on paper.
Sometimes you're like, is that
I don't know
so
that
funny?
reads. Yeah.
And so I think it's two different experiences for people. Reading the book, which I hope is great and good. But listening to the audiobook, which is, and there's things that come out when you record an audio version that aren't in the book, because you're just on the fly thinking of it. Yeah. So there was some extra fun things when we recorded that.
A little bit of ad lib.
Yes.
You're both used to.
Yeah. Which we prefer sometimes. Sometimes I feel like Danny likes his character. When he does character work, he's like, I need a script. And then I'm on over here and I'm like, I sometimes feel constrained or restrained. What's the word? Constrained when we're confined to a script. So that's been something we've had to work on, like in our live events where it's that ebb and flow where he's like, hey, you can't just go off in La La Land all the time with your improv because we're a show.
I love improv. I love improv. But when you're working with someone, there's that whole chemistry on stage. Like our live events are probably 70% improvised.
But you have to have a skeleton.
You have to have
plan.
a skeleton of a plan because otherwise, improvise. You can have a 5-hour show when the people that hired you want 45 minutes, right? Yeah. Like,
so I had to learn to like rein it in, and because there early on when we were doing our live events, we'd get on stage and Danny'd be like, "Okay, what was that? We didn't do one thing that we planned." Like we'd be backstage and do like, okay, babe, you're gonna right when we get on stage, I'm gonna say this and you're gonna say that. I'm like, okay,
ready, break.
And then we get off stage and I'm like totally on another program, doing a totally different thing, and Danny's just like, we just said.
So then you're in your head saying, how can I wrangle that back to then get us back on the tracks?
You're actually doing improv, like
yes. And with improv though, I mean, a scene can be, long form improv. Oh, do we just want to take this? But what are we trying to get back to? There's always we've got to bring it back. There's got to be a point, or what's the messaging these people have hired us for? Yeah. And so
no, I've gotten much better at
way better. Yeah. I mean, our live events are so much fun because when you do iron things out and you form that chemistry and all the things, then you have the liberty to go off the tracks because you know that you're going to bring it back, and that's,
we had to form that trust with each other because even though we trusted each other in areas of like, hey, Danny's like, I know you can go slay your television hosting job and read a teleprompter and do interviews. And I'm like, I know you can slay your personal training business and go do stunt work for football commercials and all the things that he was getting. But then like you come together. And for me, it was hard because I'm like, I'm a results driven person. So I'd be like, well, Nate, wait, now my success is attached to somebody else.
Yes.
Like, it's not just, it doesn't just, no, that sounds weird, but like I was just hired to host by myself.
No, and Kristin was a solo act. Yes, and she's a solo act in her television hosting, and we reference that in the book. We talk about teamwork. You know, how do you? I
had to learn that for sure.
Yeah, and that's just something that we work through. But man, that's there's a lot of things that make a good team, right? It's not only two selfless people like we mentioned earlier, but there's mentors in your life. There's coaching. It's all those things that make something. You know, it's one thing to work out. We always say this, Libby. It's one thing to just work out, and we see a lot of marriages just working out. But who wants to just work out? Man, I want my marriage to shine. And if you're going to shine, you got to put in the work. You got to bring that selfless, humility to the table and say, man, I'm willing to do whatever to make this thing shine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
You should name an event that with that
word. I love it. I like shine is a feel good word.
That is a
feel good word. Yeah. But it's really like, it's not even marriage problems most of the time. It's your own personal funk and junk problem in marriage. It's like, I understand we say like, I'm working on my marriage. I'm trying to fix my marriage. But at the end of the day, it's like what Danny's saying, really, you just got to do the work of dying to yourself and saying it's not your way, but God's way. And that's a hard process, and most people don't want to put in that work. Most people just want it to work out. Like, can we not go deep and do that? I'd rather just float along and like hope this stays together than actually go deep into the water and like look into some things in me that need to change, because that's hard.
So much about marriage reveals the things in us. It really does. But there's a lot of, we watch the movies, we watch the things that are just like, oh my gosh, I want that marriage. But then you get in it and life happens and it just doesn't operate that way all the time. And you hit that wall like, ooh, this is the reality. And you have that check, you have that moment where you're like, either I can start checking me, figuring out what's going on in me, why this comes out when this happens. Right. Do I have to actually pull out some things from my childhood, some old wounds and scars that maybe I need to address? That's putting in the work. When you say, I want to better me to ultimately make this team the best it can be. And that's a scary place for people to go. But man,
so rewarding and so
rewarding. So rewarding. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's easy to be passive, I think, just in general.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of be avoiding and like, oh, it's whatever, it's fine. It's like, no, you have to like face it and deal with it, which is easier said than done.
Our best relationships in life, Libby, come from those that we've gone through something with, right? Yeah. Whether you have a best girlfriend, whether, some of my best guy friends on earth, we've fought, we've gone through something, man. But we've stayed in it to work it out, to talk it through. And that's what intimacy is about. We're like, man, I didn't just say, man, forget you, I'm out of here. No, I stayed in there. Like you cared enough. Cared enough to like talk this awkward conversation out and put up your dukes even to say, no, I care about you enough to fight this out. So, yeah.
Danny, you mentioned mentors earlier. Yeah. And I want to hear individually in your careers, a mentor, either in hosting or in stunts, comedy, someone that you looked up to that maybe gave you some advice about being an entertainer in that respective area of the industry.
Ooh, that's a really good question.
In the entertainment industry. So I will just say I grew up on stage with a family who traveled around as singing evangelists. So we would go from church to church and sing the good news of Jesus Christ.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, what is a singing evangelist? That sounds like you're going door to door, like knocking on people's...
Sounds like the Boxcar Children.
Yeah. I'm like, what? This is a thing? And so, but that's really, so he grew up like, but they incorporated comedy into it too. So they had like characters and things too. So he's been doing that from an early age. And
I think
who would be like your mentor? Do you have someone that like...
No one, I think I just got encouragement along the way because I enjoyed the comedic part of what we did as in our show, and people would come up and say, "Oh, you're built to do this. This is what you need to do." And I'm sort of an old soul. I grew up on the comedians like, Red Skelton, Dick Van Dyke, Jonathan Winters, Carol Burnett.
So he's inspired by those people.
A lot of physical comedy, a lot of character comedy.
Have you read Dick Van Dyke's, I think this is bad, autobiography? He wrote it.
So autobiography. Yep. Yeah.
He has this autobiography. It's My Lucky Life in and Out of the Show Business. And it's just such.
So cool.
Okay. We have to get that.
You need to get it.
I'm going to get that. Your dad would love that too.
Man.
That's great.
It's so good. And I
love the cover.
When you're reading it, you can hear it's him. It's very, this is what happened. Didn't know it was going to happen. Super blessed. I don't know. It's just a really easy read. And there's a lot of good, grounding moments in it. Yeah. And I was I don't have to freak out or worry or plan too far ahead. I can just let life do its thing. So cool.
We only met him at one moment in Malibu at a little community festival, but he was that smile, that Dick Van Dyke smile, and just his that energy. Gracious, infectious energy that he has. And it was such a great moment.
He smiled the whole time. He did that. Where y'all from? Indiana, and then he pinpointed a place that he's been in Indiana, and he made it about us. Yeah, made it about us in terms of connecting. Yeah, that's been there plenty of times, and it's great.
And the whole time I'm like, "You're Dick Van Dyke."
Yeah. You're you were in Mary Poppins.
Yes, such a big part. Think of for me. That was my childhood. The first time that I'd ever seen someone that was a triple threat. Like that, with the dancing and the singing and the acting. And it was my first exposure to a British accent too, even though he's an American playing, the British. So anytime I'm sure British people are please don't give us that impersonation of us. But I'm always hello, that was my first, that's the first time I ever heard that. I was I want to talk like that.
Yeah. Right. And I feel back then they were kind of more lenient of, you just kind of assumed, they know what they know.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good.
Saying.
That's a good accent. That sounds good. Yeah.
So, comedians for you, Kristin, mentors in your life. Maybe something that someone, was some kind of advice that someone gave you for a red carpet event or for just a, studio interview.
Yeah. I wish that I had early on when I started hosting, another television host that took me under their wings, which I think, I'm sure there are amazing people out there that do that, but I do think because it's such a cutthroat industry, there's really a lack of that, of sort of the older guard of women, reaching down to this new group coming up and saying, hey, it's really everyone was, in my experience, unfortunately, really guarded. I would have questions and it's no, this is my job. You stay over there. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I worked for great networks that embraced my raw talent, even though I was I still had a lot to learn, and they let me grow up on that network. So I worked for G4 TV for 10 years. It went away for a while and now it's coming back. It's a video game tech pop culture channel. And I learned almost everything I know about hosting while on the air there. I got to do live shows. I got to do red carpet events. I got to do field segments. I got to learn about topics that I had no clue, but act like I knew what I was talking about. They just put me in the fire, so to speak, and gave me a job, kept asking me back for 10 years. And then I also worked for another network called AT&T Uverse, where I had great producers and got to do all these behind the scenes stuff of television, film. I was flying all over the country doing behind the scenes of CSI, Hot in Cleveland, Sesame Street, any show that was new, old, out there, we got to go on set and have experiences with the cast and do those things. And so I had great producers who just taught me how to sit and listen. And some of the best advice I ever got was 90% of television hosting, being a good host is being a good listener. Yeah. And that always stuck with me because I would go into these press junkets and have a plan and be and you need a plan. You for sure need a plan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But then also being willing to like abort the plan if it's not going well, or if it leads a different way.
Yeah.
And if they're taking you this way and you're seeing, wow, they really want to talk about this, I'll go there. And so I don't know if that helps.
Trusting yourself in that. Yeah.
And then in our relationship, getting mentors has been huge for us.
Yeah.
We would not be together if we did not have solid mentors.
Yeah, we had a couple that mentored us starting in our dating relationships, and that guy in particular he's a lot like me. He was sort of an older version of myself, but much more wise than me. And he kind of winged me up early on in my life in LA, and really just talked to me about the giftings that and the talents that God had put in me and what they're designed for. And if we continue to strive to win man's approval and get the praises of men, then we're kind of missing the point of it all. And that what God's put in us is ultimately for his glory, not for ours. And just so some of that shepherding that he did in my life, to know, how do I steward this thing? It really takes pressure off of you. Because if it's all about you and accomplishing and doing and paying the bills, man, that can drive you crazy. And you're trying to fit in other people's boxes, right? And it's like, nah, you just submit yourself to God, trust him. And now all that pressure's off. And now you can just be free to be who he's designed you to be. And he's going to provide. Everything else is just going to follow that. But that was a big thing that he poured into my life about. And then he and his wife collectively would share into our life as a couple. And that was huge. Premarital counseling, which we talk often about, which is huge. And then obviously continuing that in good seasons and bad. You know, some people equate counseling. Yeah.
Like regular check-ins.
Yes. Some people equate counseling as like, oh, you must be messed up to go to counseling. It's actually, no, you're wise. You're wise.
And I am messed up. How about that?
Yeah. That's real too. We all are. We all are broken people. And so, you know, if you talk to any psychologist or psychiatrist, they often have their psychologist and psychiatrist that they go to. Yeah. You know, everybody needs to a healing. Everyone needs a soundboard. So
it's one of my friends back when we lived in LA would always say it's like a constant flow from, you know, like this, where you've got people in your life that know more than you do, that are way ahead in a season of life, you know, than you are, so that they're pouring into you. Then you've got all your friends that are kind of in the same season, you know, where your iron sharpens iron, like encouraging each other. And then you've got people that you should be pouring into. Yeah. Like I mentioned, I wish I had more of that, and specifically in the entertainment industry, because I could have gleaned a lot more rather than just learning on my own. I would have appreciated that. So yeah, it's great to find those, seek them out, pray them in your life, for them to come in your life, and value them when you do have them.
And we all need help. And I feel like this book is going to help a lot of people. So
go
check it out. The Road to Love and Laughter, out now, audiobook. You've also got a course as well. Your date night event, all the things. So KristinandDanny.net is the website.
Yes, that's the website.
Social media. Guys, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you, Libby. You're such a sweetheart. We really appreciate you having us on your show. And thank you for the coffee mug.
It's the Libby-O show.
Libby-O.
Libby-O.
Libby-O in the house.
It's the Libby-O show. The Libby-O show. It's the Libby-O show. It's the Libby-O show.